Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of Yogi Dave's Hobby Podcast, the podcast where I talk about everything from tabletop RPGs, tabletop war games, and tabletop board games. Today, we have Fillip Locnar from Ordoalea Publishing. So we're going to talk about the Domains RPG that he's writing.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah. Quite well. Hard like hell here, but okay. It's bearable.
Yeah, the heat is a wee bit much, I will say.
Yeah, especially that it's 38 degrees Celsius out there.
Yeah. Well, it was 25 here yesterday, and you'll know Scottish people that we don't do well with the heat. We can do well with the cold, but we can't do well with the heat. It's not fun. So, as I was saying in the intro, you are the man behind Ordoalea Publishing and the Domains RPG.
Yep.
Just explain a little bit about it for us.
Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, I wanted to make a narrative horror game, because at that time, the most games which we play horror, unfortunately, everything was either utterly crunchy or fluffy, nothing in between. At that time, you've got your Call of Cthulhu and Fate. That was about it, what we played. And Call of Cthulhu was too crunchy for me. It's perfect with the current 7th edition, but still not that right. And Fate was just too fluffy, so I started working on my own system that evolved over the last 6 years. And in the end, it's right now as it is. Survival horror narrative tabletop role-playing game that focuses on the characters' feelings and the characters' sense of horror. It's intended to make every experience for the player exactly as it is for the character, due to the main narrative control that the player has over the character. Basically, if something happens to your character, you're in control. You're steering it, you're doing it.
Yep. That's pretty cool. I mean, as somebody who is working on his own RPG, I can understand the frustration. My biggest frustration is with the D&D and Pathfinder. That they're so similar that they don't really work for a lot of the stuff that you want to do. And the realism as well for me. I know it's a bit weird to go, oh, it's not realistic because it's fantasy, but they use strength for melee combat and stuff like that, and you're like, well, no, that doesn't work. I can understand where you're coming from for that.
Yeah, well, the system is good for fantasy and everything, but D&D for everything else. I'm still an AD&D 2nd edition guy, so
Yeah.
it's sword and sorcery, it's pulp fiction, and that's about it. You can't do anything besides pulp fiction, sword and sorcery with it. And my primary problem with the systems are that they focus on one kind of narrative. Let's call it narrative instead of genre. Basically, the goal of Call of Cthulhu, you're only playing Call of Cthulhu. You can't play anything else.
Yeah.
You're locked into that type of game.
Mm-hmm.
So my primary focus was to create a game that focuses on the feeling and on the genre itself. Basically, it's a tool set that allows you to make any kind of horror game you want, as long as it has a lasting and really disturbing impact on your character, because that's the point of horror, how you handle the negative aspects.
Yeah.
And, well, as you said, I mean, I've played everything. From the old AD&D rules on sanity, Call of Duty D20 edition, yeah, don't lynch me for that one. I've played Call of Cthulhu in the basic RPG system. Tried Fate, tried everything. But I always felt that those games lacked something. So I looked up to non-tabletop RPGs, mainly computer games, survival horror games, and Resident Evil and the like.
Yep.
And saw how much actual narrative content they have with a few limitations and a few let's call it tricks or treat to get that feeling over. So yeah, I kind of tried working with that to get the rule set done. Basically, the first thing that I had to decide was there are no passive actions. Unless it's said, nothing happens. With that, I think we kind of got to the closest feeling of isolation and that dread when you're inside of a survival horror role-playing game or something. You have to feel vulnerable. It's not the sort of game where you feel empowered with, like Dungeons and Dragons. You saw a dragon level 5, it's awesome, it's a bloody genius, but still, that's not what you want in a horror game. You want to feel weak. You want to know that your character will die at every step.
Yeah.
But the rules not only have to be like, bamf, you're shot, you're dead, roll up a new character. They actually have to facilitate the whole aspect of what happens inside your character's mind when you're dying, when everything goes to shreds, when it gets dark. And that's basically how I went with it.
Yeah.
The system evolved from there. Basically, at first it was like skill-based systems. So I decided, wait, if we're going narrative, what's the most important thing in a narration? Scenes.
Yeah.
Is it important what kind of skill a character has in a scene? No,
Nope.
actually not. If you're writing a script, you don't actually say, yeah, he's going to do this. No. He's going to try to find a way out of it. So I basically went with a system like that, and I tried to create a little something that with the narrative control of the character, going directly to the player, making sure that everything that happens inside the game is active.
Mm-hmm.
You want to block that blow. Okay, tell me you're doing it. You want to do this, you want to do that. Sure, but wait your little allotted time and do it in your own time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't react to things.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to react to things, wait for it. And with that, I think I actually got quite close to the old school horror movies where people just stand there talking and, oh my god, what's happening there? And that's kind of the feeling I wanted with that game. The whole desperation, the feeling of uselessness, and yet you can do something. You can strive going for it. I would say that was primarily due to the introduction to the Dark Heresy Fantasy Flight Games line, which I actually explained it's not about winning, it's about fighting the fight and trying, pushing.
Yeah. Oh,
a little bit more.
Aye, like what's the one we've got? Oh, we've got one of the board games from Fantasy Flight, the Arkham Horror ones, the Elder Thing. We've got that. And first game we played, we won, and how on earth we won is beyond me. But then the second game, we lost, and lost very badly. But that's not the point. That was that, it's the striving to beat this particular, old one. Aye, old one. I can never remember with Cthulhu. It's been forever since I've actually played Call of Cthulhu, so it's like, I've never been a big, massive horror fan. It's just one of those things, it doesn't interest me. Fantasy's always interested me. Sci-fi's always interested me. But it's interesting to hear other people's perspective on it and what they enjoy about it. So, yeah. No, I mean, that's good, man. I mean, you're trying to find the best way to do a horror, and as you say, you do it how they do it in the movies. It's like no control. You do what you can do, and if you survive, then you survive. But if you don't, that you're not meant to, really.
Yeah, because that way, I think the worst thing about I'm gonna go and bash Call of Cthulhu because I actually love that game.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing that occurred to me was that sanity system. You get below sanity, randomly roll on some cruddy table that tells you how you have to do. It tells you what happens. You don't even get to decide what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, dice rolls. You've got ichthyophobia. What's that? Fear of fishes, but we're in space. No, table says so. I mean, you can always say, the DMs intended to twerk that a bit, but still, I think that shouldn't even be up to the DM. That should be up to the player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's your character. You know what the best idea is, what the best course of action for your story is at this moment. You are the one who should be in the steering wheel.
Yeah.
It's your game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's your character. Do whatever you please.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was another game that I played was Dark Heresy, the Warhammer 40k RPG. And the sanity thing on that it's like, how have we not gone on insane already from...
Yeah.
Because, it's like you get random amount of insanity points. You might not get any insanity points. I mean, I pretty much went through the entire campaign up until the last mission without getting insanity points, and it's like, how on earth did that happen? And I'm the guy that's in the middle of fighting demons. I faced up to a greater demon, for crying out loud. How on earth did I not get any insanity points? But then when you actually got insanity points and you got past the threshold, it was like, it doesn't fit. Doesn't fit for what you've seen, Yeah,
it actually helps you. The more insanity you have, the easier you just go, nah, whatever, I've seen worse.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be like that. I mean, it's a horror game. Horror isn't just like splatter and gore. It's not you just staying here and, oh look, guts. Ooh.
Yeah.
No, it's different from person to person. I mean, you can't make a system that's closed. You have to have an open-ended system. It has to be a framework, sort of. Because you and I experience horror differently.
Yeah.
Everybody experiences horror differently. You can't just generalize everything. And that's why the most important thing, why I didn't say tabletop role-playing game instead of a role-playing system, because it is a game. I mean, it's a rule book. But still, it has to be open-ended enough so that everyone can sit at the table and say, yeah, that's horrifying for me. I want to do that thing.
Yeah.
And everybody can just get into the whole story aspect. Because you're not just going to say, yeah, I rolled the die. The system forces you to roll the die, see, this, that, and this happens, and this happens to me.
Yeah.
You have to balance out the good and bad yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty. Yeah, I mean, I get that. Obviously, having played quite a lot of RPGs, you don't tend to. You tend to find a lot of systems are rolled dice, and you say, okay, this happens, but it's not what pushes it. It's not the narrative that's pushing it. It's the dice that's pushing it. And obviously, you only RP as much as, the group RPs, but your set of rules, you have to, it forces you to roleplay it, really, I suppose, rather than...
No, it's not about roleplay, because, honestly, nobody roleplays the same way. That's another thing which I saw. I mean, I've been playing for 23 years now.
Yeah.
I played in a group where it was like, yeah, I move 25 feet, that's... 5 squares here. I rolled a dog. I rolled the paper, mache thingy, and dice. Okay, what happens? I've played with a group which stayed in character the whole bloody session. They even had those little cards which they lifted when they were out of character. I mean, that was one of the most beautiful games that I have had. I played with a group which never role-played, but actually spun the story. My character does this, interacted with everybody, but they were always from third-person perspective. I've played with a group of theater actors.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the most weirdest things ever, because they didn't... It wasn't exactly role-play-ish, as most people think that it would be with a cast of people. That's why... I never watch Critical Role. I don't watch podcasts that much. I don't like watching real play videos, because most of the time you see somebody playing it and then you see yourself playing and thinking, wait, it's different. Yeah, it's different. That's the whole point of it. You're supposed to have fun.
Yeah. Well, I just started a new group not that long ago, and all but one of them had never played any RPGs ever, or they had very limited experience. And I said to them, do not think it's going to be like Critical Role. Don't think it's going to be like this, that, or the next thing, because it's not. Because it's going to be completely different. Because we're all going to play completely differently. From, I mean, these guys are voice actors in Critical Role. So making the voices up and all the rest of that kind of stuff comes naturally to them. Whereas we're just going to be playing this game. And you got to get comfortable with each other before anything, massive is going to happen, or any, real understanding of what kind of game it's going to be is going to be. So just have fun. Don't think that it's going to be anything else. And it worked out. Unfortunately, I've had to take a wee bit of a step back, but they're still going, which is great. Yeah. That's it. Everyone's role-playing game, everyone's role-playing experience is going to be different, because we are all different. We're all unique individuals, and that's how it goes.
Yep.
Okay. Right, so gonna go into the questions. So you said you've been in the hobby for 23 years, yeah? Is it just been role playing games, or
no, I've been through most of it. LARP, wargaming. I mean, I tried everything. It's been most of role playing games because it's what drives me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing that I like the most. But I'm playing everything. Slowly started with Warhammer and whatnot. Currently, I have a whole bloody Steiner Lance up there on my shelf, unpainted, which I have to kind of paint.
Steiner.
Yeah.
I'm a Draconis Combine Samurai, I'm afraid.
My brother plays the Draconis Combine.
Yeah. I've got a whole company of battle mechs. Not a whole company, a whole regiment of battle mechs sitting in boxes in my loft, and there are, I'd say probably half of them are first generation, the elite Draconis Combine guys, not in the red, in the grey. I mean that you do find that sometimes though with a lot of people that RPG, as they did come into it through war games, especially nowadays, but then you've got the guys that started with RPGs and have only ever done RPGs.
And with war games, that's my case.
Yeah.
I started with D&D 2nd edition. That was the funniest way to start, because that was back in 95.
Mm-hmm.
It was before D&D was actually split up in Croatia. We actually had a faxed copy of the Player's Handbook, Monstrous Manual, and Dungeon Master's Guide from the revisited edition of 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It was one of those things when you just imported dice for like 10 times the cost and played with a bunch of ruffled up, old faded papers.
Mm-hmm. Oof. Oh, I don't know that struggle, because I started, my own personal gaming thing started with my dad when I was like 5 playing Blood Bowl. But when I started playing RPGs, I was like 10, 11, and it was the actual, it was the books. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Palladium, and then because I was thinking about it not that long ago. I was like, did I start with that, or did I start with D&D? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, no, because my mate had one of his pals who was like 3 or 4 years older than him, had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that was the first time I ever played. We never ever completed an adventure in anything like that, because he went in a huff. But then a year or two later, we started with D&D, and then it was AD&D. Setting the same as you, but then I picked up on holiday the Red Box, first edition. Still have it sitting again in my loft, but yeah, it's but my thing has always been diversity. Diversity in games, and because I love it. I mean, I love all the different systems. We're playing Infinity from Modiphius, the 2D20 system, and it is fun. I mean, that's it. I'll stop playing a system if it's not fun. It's like Shadowrun. I love the Shadowrun lore, but the system's a complete and utter mess.
I know. I switched up to the Shadowrun Anarchy system just not long ago because the dice. The only thing that surpassed Shadowrun in quantity of buckets of dice was second edition Exalted, and well, that's just too much.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's fine when you're playing a war game and you're playing like Warhammer and you're chucking loads of dice, but when you're playing,
I know, but that's not that long. I mean, you chuck dice for like what, 5 minutes around, and that's honestly, if you're playing Space Marines, you're going to roll like 20 dice.
Yeah.
But I don't know, my brother rolled like 50 or 60 dice with his Orc boys, and I was like, what the?
Yeah.
Okay, it took him like 10 minutes to see what was a pass, what was a failure. I mean, we always rolled both the attack and the damage dice at the same time, so you see, this. You can just chuck off what's not working because that's the fastest way.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people use different systems, but use the Shadowrun lore, don't they? I mean, that's the thing. We tried 3rd edition Shadowrun because I hadn't played it in forever, and I thought, oh, we'll try it out because I'd bought the rules years ago, and then I remembered how bad it really was, but also how bad it was laid out. You know, like, can't find anything, can't figure this out. I had to get one of the guys that's working on the Legends of Ham and Sharon with me. He is quite methodical, so he went through everything and found everything, and you're like, thank God, because I'm like, I get lost in the rules at point. Yeah, that's good. So how often do you play?
Oh, depends on the workday, but we try to play this once a week.
Yeah.
I haven't played in 4 months now due to personal stuff, but yeah.
Well,
we used to play around thrice a week in middle school. I mean, we even got to level 63 in 3rd edition. It took us ages.
Yeah. I can understand why you didn't have any time this week to play, having a wedding and a birthday to have. But, I mean, it's hard to find time. I mean, the older you get, the harder it is. I tried to get the new group to do it like once a week, but then my personal stuff kept on getting in the way of stuff, and I'm like,
I tried playtesting guys online over Discord and whatnot, and after 1 week, let's meet up next week, and personal stuff, game dropped. Yeah,
well, I mean that's why I've been reaching out to people, like the Defenders of Kobold from Twitch and the Discord server that they're on, and I'm on as well. Reaching out to them to playtest stuff, pinned on the Twitter page for the set of rules, Facebook group, everything. I'm just like, need somebody else to playtest it because we're going to get maybe once a month to playtest it, and that's not enough.
I was actually trying to get a group myself, but in the end, only 2 people asked, and it was all afterwards.
Yeah, well. That's why I'm like, here's the rules, playtest them, tell us what you think, and all this, that kind of stuff, because it's easier that way than us just trying to find groups to playtest the rules with, because I don't know what it's like in Croatia, but it is quite difficult finding people to RPG with, because all they want to do is D&D, and you're like,
yeah, about the same, basically what a lot of new people say, I want to play, but I want to play D&D because that's the definitive role-playing experience. So I was like, but guys, why are you playing D&D? We're playing an SF game, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, D&D, I do enjoy it, and I even enjoy the newest edition, far more than other editions, but not as much as second edition. But you can't go back because everyone wants to play 5th edition. You're like, okay, no problem. But at the same time, you're like, oh, this does not work. This does not work. Too much gold. Somebody on Twitter was talking about it the other day, or maybe last week, about the reason why, there's been such a gold creep and a power creep in the last couple of editions. It's because they took, like, when you got to a certain level in D&D, you automatically started getting followers, and then you had to pay for them. So then, as you got more powerful and the more adventures you went on, the more gold you got, the more followers you got, so the more you're having to pay out to look after those followers, and that's why there's so much gold. But then they took that out, and then you're like, well, I'm still getting all this money. Yeah.
Yeah, because, I once made a terrible mistake. I gave my players at level 3 per player around 250,000 gold coins in Pathfinder. First edition, I was like, oh, right. Basically broke the whole game.
Yeah. Yup. That'll do it. I do think they did bring out the follower rules, but unless you've been playing with those rules from the beginning, then it's not going to help much when they've got ridiculous amounts of gold and can buy any magic item you want.
Exactly. Honestly, I think it's an oversight in the system because I'm not a fan of the DM should fix it. Yeah, you could fix it. That's the same thing as I could use I don't know what for what not. But right tool at right time is better than wasting time on the tools. I mean, as I'm getting older, I'm seeing, I used to play AD&D. We played everything in it. We tweaked the rules. We house rule. But right now, I want to pick up a rule book, say, okay, let's play this type of game. Be done with the game preparation like 2 days max, and say, guys, create characters. Know that my players can create characters in like 5 hours and say, yep, let's play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I do like the Modiphius 2D20 systems, because, everything's there. You don't have money, you have assets. You can buy stuff, but you need to actually be able to find them, which is good. You can't just go, all right, I'm buying that. You have to be able to find it. You have to be able to afford it, for one. And you have to be able to find it. And when you find it, it might cost more than you thought it was going to cost. So you need to have that amount of money. Also, it might be illegal. So that does some things. But at the same time, where was I going with? My train of thought has actually just went off there. I mean, you create characters in like 2 hours. You don't have to take forever to build a character. You just have to go through all this. The only reason it took us 2 hours is because everyone was going through one rulebook. That's why.
Honestly, I would say that my current biggest problem with the rulebook is that I need to give some kind of player companion for free with it. Yeah. It takes between 2 and 5 hours to make a character. Not because the system is complicated. I mean, it's easy. Step 1, pick what you're going to play. Step 2, assign attributes. Step 3, buy gear. Step 4, calculate everything according to the character sheet. And it's literally, sum it up, is this above 4? Yes. Point, this. 5 things, you're done.
Yeah.
The options. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing with our set of rules. I can do it in about, half an hour, but that's because I know the construction rules, because I wrote the construction rules, because I know everything, and I know what fits with that particular type of character. Yeah. Whereas when somebody's starting, it's a first ever game, it's going to take them 2 or 3 hours to figure out, okay, I want to be that kind of character. That works with that. That works with that. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. Because you want to make it a success, don't you? You always want to make it a success, but you don't want to do too much for free, because that's going to take up time. But yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, Modifius did that with all their sets of rules. They did like character, like basic rules with the character construction. They did PDFs of them, so that's something you could do. But yeah.
No, honestly, my idea was not even to do rules, just character creation.
Yeah. Aye, no, that's not too much work, is it?
No, that's actually compiling a bit of stuff, but it'll take me like a few hours once the rulebook is actually out.
Yeah.
Once primary problem is I need to get it edited. Then I'll see how much stuff will be fixed by it, because I think that most of the problems will be solved once the rulebook gets native English speakers attention and professional editing.
Yeah.
That's the currently biggest problem.
Yeah. Yeah. My problem sometimes is I slide into Scots. So sometimes I actually write in Scots. I don't know why. My brain just goes there because I know that way. But you have to go back and go, no, you have to put it in actual English, David.
Yeah, because it has to be not only accessible to native speakers,
it
has to be understandable by people like me. And I mean, it's a hard thing because I've noticed a lot of non-English speaking people do not get English speaking phrases. There's a large language barrier with that because
it's idioms. Idioms don't translate.
Yeah.
Because, I'm trying to think an idiom that, in somebody's language means a completely different thing. Somebody else's language means a completely different thing. I mean, I don't know if any other language has idioms, but I'm sure they do. I'm sure idioms in that language don't work in English because it's like, I don't understand what that means. So, I know a lot of native English speakers speaking a lot of idioms. So, that and also slang,
and not to speak that concept do not translate well.
Yeah.
You can have a concept and explain to somebody, but it loses the impact it has when it's in another language.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, they say one of the best places to learn English is Scotland, because if you can understand the Scots, you can understand everyone, but it's still understanding some of the shit.
Same thing my teacher told me about German.
Yeah.
If you want to learn German, go to Austria.
Yeah.
Learn Austrian, lower Boerish German, because if you understand them, you understand everything. Because you have to know Hochdeutsch to understand the Boerish, and if you want to understand the Boerish, you need to know Boerish.
Fair enough. Yeah. But it's the same in Ireland as well. That's another good place to learn English, because, my God, do they not speak bloody English there? Sometimes I can't understand them. I was over there a couple of years ago, and it's like, you need to get them to slow down a wee bit. We talk fast, but they talk really fast. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I know you're speaking English, but stop. Slow. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that it is going to be more difficult for you, obviously, because you don't speak English as your first language, though your English is probably actually better than mine.
Thanks, but the problem is that English isn't even my second language.
Yeah.
Let's not get into the discussion about how other languages shape your perception and your writing style, because right now, the moment when I think about something, if it equates to a specific thing in a language, I'll think in that language. I kind of made a problem right now because I started learning Welsh. And there's a few concepts in the Welsh language has, but English doesn't. And when I tried to translate it from Welsh to English, it's impossible. I mean, it is possible, but it just isn't the same.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say Welsh and Gaelic and Manx. And
yeah, that's just something.
They're all interrelated languages. So, and I cannot speak. My little cousin, she grew up in Uist, one of the islands, and they speak Gaelic. And it's my mother tongue, but I cannot understand a bloody word of what they say. And I can't get my head around it. I would love to be able to speak it, but nope. Right, so what is your rule set of choice?
Rule set of choice? Depends on the game. I'm not going to say this or that because if I want to play some fantasy, I'll go with AD&D because that's the rule set I know the most.
Yeah.
If it's going to be something more realistic, I'll go with GURPS or with Fudge.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be horror, I would have said Call of Cthulhu, but right now I'm working on my own system. I'm going to say my system. There's supers, there's everything. The system just has to fit the tone of the game. I just can't play D&D anymore if I want to do this or that. It's fancy, done.
Yeah.
Straight up fancy, nothing else. So there are no preferred systems, there are no preferred genres, and I'll work with it.
Yeah. I was going to... so if you're playing D&D, what's your favourite character class?
Oh, Paladin.
Paladin.
Or Cleric. Both work.
Yeah. Cool. No, that thing about D&D, that it doesn't fit every peg for every hole. I can't remember who it was. That was one of the Twitch or YouTube channels. They were doing a Mass Effect set of rules with 5th edition, and you're like, there's so many other rule sets that you could use. And again, this was somebody on Twitter was like, they had a list of rules that you could use that you'd be better off with than Mass Effect. And then people were going, but people play 5th edition more than they do this set of rules or that set of rules. It's like, well, you're wanting to showcase the world rather than the set of rules. So you're wanting to use a set of rules that actually fits the world. Right?
I mean, you can homebrew everything. You can always can. It's not a question if you can. You can. End of story. Change any system to fit any kind of game. But is it worth the time spent modifying it? That's a better question.
Yeah. If it's too crunchy or the narrative doesn't work, and then you're spending time for a set of rules that isn't going to be that great, I think. But you know, that's my thought on it. If you could play a rule set from the past, what would you like to try?
Honestly, I've played most of it.
Yeah.
I've went through all the editions of AD&D, from the brand box, original, D&D, basic, BSMI. I really tried playing every system out there once I started working on my own, and right now, any system I could play, which I played from the past, again, D&D 2nd edition, mainly due to nostalgia and due to the fact that I know the system in and out, word by word.
So, if you want to explain a wee bit more about the rule set than you've already gone into, just to give people maybe a flavour of a turn or something like that, just for people to understand a wee bit more. If you get
sure. What exactly you want me to go over? I mean, we can do everything.
No, just like a basic turn. Like, have you got? My brain is not doing what I wanted to do. So, like the example of play for
the game. Well, the easiest way to explain it, I'll just rephrase one of my playtesters. It's a guy who's been playing since '89,
Mm-hmm.
so 30 years straight. He played every system with me, played everything.
Mm-hmm.
He is an absolute unit when it comes to role-playing games, and after a few sessions, he said, no, I'm not going to comment it, we're going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
He went into character, he did everything, and after about 5 or 8 playtesting sessions, once the current iteration of rules was done, basically his reaction was, this is an unholy baby. Spawn of Corpse, Silent Hill, Vampire the Masquerade, and your fascination with Resident Evil. I don't know what you did, just keep doing it. Basically, it's a crunchy system that works with narration in a way that it kind of forces you to intertwine the rules and the story, while also making sure that you as the character have to decide everything for a character.
Mm-hmm.
And all in all, I would say that the system is that's a system, it's a framework.
Yeah. Rather than a set of rules.
Yeah, because even the rulebook states, the first moment you find something boring, just drop it.
Yeah, that's what I think a lot of sets of rules should actually say. First time you find something boring, drop it, find something else to replace it. I know they started adding that to D&D, that, this is a framework.
But still, D&D is D&D. It's immutable in my opinion. It's just something that doesn't change.
Yeah.
It's there. It's a monolith. It's what it is. I mean, you can change it, but it will be still the same thing at its core, because the core mechanics say it is exactly that. Mm-hmm. You can roleplay as much as you want, but at that moment, I will play the devil's advocate. Why do we even have rules? Why don't we just play make-believe and say, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the rules are there to limit that kind of interaction between people.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the biggest issues I've found with D&D is it's so combat orientated that, your experience is combat orientated, Yeah,
basically everything goes down to how many goblins you kill.
Yeah. Which is something that I wanted to get away from. So, you get experience for passing skill tests rather than it just being, we've got into combat and we fought these guys, we've got a couple hundred XP from it between us, and, every time you pass a skill test, no matter how easy it was, how hard it was, you gain experience. I wanted to go along the same lines of, not exactly like Elder Scrolls, but, every time you succeed doing something in Elder Scrolls, you get experience, you get better at it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Consortium's basic roleplay system. Succeed, see if you increase that skill.
Yeah.
After game ends and so on.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't so much as, you improve in the skill, it was you get experience for it, which you can use to improve your skill, but you can also use to improve other things. Because obviously, if you're trying to pop a lock, you're using your dexterity, you're using your mind to try and figure out, right, okay. So it's not just the doing of the improving on the skill, it's everything that you could do to improve. Actually, I need to put that in the rules, I think, probably. That's a thought. Anyway, so that's what we're doing is kind of like one of the adventures is going to be, because we're going to do a couple of different playtest adventures, and there's each one is writing one. One of the guys is writing a purely puzzle adventure, so it's going to be skill tests and being able to figure out from there what the puzzles are. So that's, I hope, I mean, we did play, what's the name of it? Through the Breach, the Weird see the guys that do Malifaux, their RPG. We played a almost purely puzzle based adventure doing that, and everyone seemed to, well, apart from me, because it's not my brightest spark is doing puzzles. You know, I mean, I still enjoyed parts of it, but you know, the other people enjoyed it. So that's the thing. We want to make it so everyone can experience it. If you don't like doing combat, then you don't need to do a combat adventure. You can do a diplomacy adventure. You can do a puzzle adventure. You can do exploration adventure. Or, you know, anything. You know, something that I find that D&D doesn't do is caters for everyone. It caters for people who want to play combat. And if you want to play combat, you're as well going and playing Warhammer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're trying to get away from. So, I mean, I'm going through like a lot of people that are doing all their own things, you know, trying to interview them for podcasts and stuff, and it's like getting more ideas for my own RPG, because it's like, that's an interesting take. That's an interesting take, and you're like, yeah, it's. I mean, I like talking to people about RPGs because obviously, you know, there's a finite amount of people that you've got to talk about it at home. So getting to talk to more people, that's why I've quite enjoyed Twitter, and that's how I found quite a lot of people, and that different perspectives is important, I think. So yeah.
I honestly think that Twitter right now is the best way to get in touch with other creators.
Yeah.
Mainly as they're just there, and people are really open to talking about the system and sharing ideas.
Yeah.
That you can easily see if your idea works, if it's intended for exactly what you want, if it works this way, if it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You can easily measure it up to something.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing about, I would say the worst thing that I had about working in Croatia on my system for 5 years was that there was nobody I could comment about.
Yeah.
My players play it this way.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how I present it, it's going to be always the same thing. It's going to be what they want to play. But you never know if it's going to be something people want to play.
Yeah. Well, that was the... I mean, I've only been on Twitter for, 6 months? And I'm like... It gave me one of the biggest pushes to actually go and start this. Because I thought, I'm seeing all these people doing... Oh, I'm doing these adventures, I'm doing that, I'm doing the next thing. And they're like, oh, I'm doing my own RPG. And it's like, well, I've had that idea in my head for ever. Because I've had the world in my head for... How long have I been playing D&D? 20 odd years? And I'm like, I've had that world running through my head and through the years. So I'm like, well, I want a set of rules that actually works for it. I don't want... I mean, yes, D&D works for certain things, but, you know, you add this and you add the next thing and it starts to break. And you want to do this kind of adventure. It doesn't really cater for it. So that was my idea behind doing this. But yeah, Twitter has a lot of good people to talk to and walk through things. And as you say, it's different people that might want to play the rules, and they're going to give you an opinion on it, which is good, because you know you don't want to live in a vacuum, do you? When you're writing a set of rules. Yeah, you get what I'm meaning. Living in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any more questions. You anything else you want to?
No. My brain's not working either.
No, it's
the heat's killing me.
it's because I was trying to get to bloody sleep last night, and it was just so warm that my brain wasn't wanting to shut off. It was like, no, you can't go to sleep. No, I need to go to sleep. Can't go to sleep. Yeah, so thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
So keep us updated on. I'll keep everyone updated on how everything's going, and I hope you get everything sorted soon, so you can get the rules out and we can play them. Alrighty.
Yeah, sure. Honestly, the rules are done.
Yeah.
Systems finished. The only thing that I have to do is get it straightened out, and well, that's gonna be fun with the actual founding.
Yeah, I've seen the thing with you that you can't do Kickstarter or anything like that because of law.
Croatia is not allowed on almost any kind of crowdfunding site, no nothing, and with that, it's kind of a problem because I have to secure some kind of initial funds.
Yeah.
If I don't do that, most people won't even talk to me. I was just told by a company like 2 or 3 months ago that, nah, sorry, we won't do it. Yeah, your system's good, everything's cool and everything, but you're from Croatia. How can you guarantee to us without some kind of initial funding that it'll be okay? I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, that's... I've seen a couple of people from Croatia and places like that, you know, don't do crowdfunding. They're not allowed crowdfunding, so it's like, I'm having so much trouble just trying to get past that first hurdle.
Yeah, I talked to Zoltan, actually, from the Waken RPG. It was, as far as I understood him, it took him almost a year of securing funds to actually get to the first Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So, with the current position which I'm in, I think it'll take me, if I just do my own funds, it'll take me a year or two to get to the editing part.
Yeah. That sucks, man. Because I think sometimes those of us that don't have that issue just go, oh, well, I can just go on Kickstarter, or I can do Patreon, and I can get the funds for it. But then you got to think, you know, it's not that easy for everyone. But because I was talking to somebody about having the money to do the artwork, and I mean, you know,
I was told by the guys that I should secure around €1,000, if not more, for the initial artwork and everything, so I can get a Kickstarter started.
Yeah.
And I was like, right.
Yeah, €1,000. That's like what I mean. Right now, that would be what.
Yeah, in my current self. Okay, let's do this. 1 Croatian kuna equals to $1 worth of buying power.
Yeah.
€1,000 is about 7,500 kunas. So that'll be the same thing if somebody in the US main area, so let's say New York and that part, would take $7,000 just to get the initial 5 or 6 pieces of art.
Yeah. Well, I get that because currently I'm working part-time, so I'm like, well, I don't have the money to get that. I really need to get Patreon and stuff sorted out, because otherwise I'm not going to get the money for it.
I mean, I've got Patreon and coffee and everything, but I've noticed that people do not like paying for unfinished products. They want a done thing. They want to see somebody invested money into it, so that they get something out of it instead of...
Yeah, that does seem to be the thing, doesn't it? I mean, you do see some people that do use Patreon and stuff like that, and they're getting places, but then they're few and far between. It's like, you need to have that money. It's like, I need to win the bloody lottery to actually be able to fund my game, and then it becomes a job. I don't really want it to feel like a job, you know? I mean, doing it full time would be great, but at the same time, you're doing it on your own. You know, doing it in your own time makes it more fun, because you're not...
Yeah, I know, but still, doing it in your own time while still trying to be professional is utterly hard. I mean, I could finish the system like tomorrow and have it at some kind of a hobby level, but people would complain that it's a hobby level game.
Yeah, that's it, innit? You don't want it to be a hobby level game. You want it to actually be a professional set of rules that people want to go out and spend money to play. Because again, it's as you said, people don't want to pay that kind of money, and people aren't wanting to pay the kind of money for actual professional level stuff. You know, I've seen stuff where people are complaining, a 270 page setting book, $40. It's like, what's wrong with paying $40 for a setting book that size? I'd pay that. I'd happily pay that.
I know, and the thing that I'm confused about is telling people, yeah, look, I'm making a system. The whole system will be like €5 per book.
Yeah.
In digital edition, and the physical hard copy book currently should be €25 without the postage. Mm-hmm. The postage for it, maximally, the worst case scenario is €15. So for €40, you not only get it delivered to home, you also get the full book, full print quality. Honestly, Minkan paper, that's 120 grams per square meter of paper. That's high quality gloss paper, 180% ink saturation. I even organized that little strip of I don't know what it's called in English, the little strip of cloth that you put into the book to mark where you're...
bookmark.
Yeah, but it has a...
It's got another name. I can't remember the name myself.
Yeah, the cloth bookmarker inside the hardcover book. I mean... And people tell me, digital edition is €35 for a 200 pages book. Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't understand the mentality of some people these days. They just expect something for nothing, and it's like, well, lots of time, energy, and resources have gone into doing this. Pay if you want it, pay the money. Just that's it. If you don't want it, then fine. But if you want it, you need to pay the money. That has become my philosophy and everything. It's because I've been a commission painter for models, and people are, oh, can you do it for this? No, this is the price. Oh, but I can get you exposure and stuff like that, and it's like, no, don't care. Pay the money. Or I don't do it.
And the worst thing is when you say to people, I don't actually want a lot of money. I mean, I want a lot of money. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But with a lot of money, I don't mean, like, I need €10,000 per month.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah, with €150 a month. That's almost CEO level of pay grade. And people are confused what you're doing it cheap. Yeah, I'm doing it cheap because, unfortunately, everything here is cheap.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, innit? You're doing it on a price for what you need to get back from it. Whereas, somebody renting here in Scotland is for a decent place is £350-400 a week. So, or not a week, a month. So it's more than, it's all about perspective in it. It's all about how much everything costs where you're from, rather than that, and that depends on how much you're needing to get for everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's hard.
It's
economy. It's hard as.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest thing to understand for me. Is right, okay, I need to, if we started talking about that, it would be at it for hours.
I know.
Again, I want to thank you for coming on, and, I will keep everyone updated on how things are going when you publish and everything, and hopefully it'll be soon enough.
Okay? Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Right. Thanks very much, mate.
No problem, mate.
Right, so that is the interview with Fillip Locnar from Ordoalea Publishing, and that was a really interesting conversation. It only lasted about an hour, but I'm sure we could have gone on for hours and hours. I know there's parts of it that there was some stilt and some me trying to figure things out, but it's very warm here, and it's kind of frying my brain a wee bit. So if you want to follow Philip's progress, it's at Ordoalea, capital P is the Twitter account, or just type in Ordoalea Publishing. It's Ordoalea. On that, there is the details of his Patreon and his Ko-fi account if you want to help him out towards actually getting the domain set rules published, because as you heard there, you can't really get Kickstarter going because of the laws in Croatia. So, he needs help. Please help if you can. I'd like to see it get published because it's been a long time he's been working at it. And while it's not my thing, I do like to support fellow RPG writers. It's why I'll support people till the day that they show me that they're a fucking dick. And there's a few people that showed me very quickly on Twitter that they're fucking dick, and got blocked. But that's my personal opinion. We'll not get into it. Yes, you might have heard me talking about World Anvil, and I am going to shill World Anvil. I'm not getting any money for it. I'm not getting it for free. Nothing like that. I just think it's fucking awesome. It's www.worldanvil.com. World Anvil is an online tool to allow you to build a campaign world, or build an RPG world, or build if you're a writer building a world, building your world in one place that you can do loads of stuff with. You can link species and countries and cities, and you can even link rivers and seas and stuff to actual places. So it's very, very cool product. I highly recommend. If you are a DM or an RPG writer, or even just a writer, you have a look at it. It's not just limited to fantasy either, which is awesome, because it means when I'm doing stuff other than Legend Hammer and Sharon, so if I'm doing a science fiction or a real world campaign, I can use it for when I'm doing that as well, which I'm actually quite happy about, to be honest. So yeah, highly recommend it. Excuse me. It's worldanvil.com. There's a free level, which I think probably for GMs is probably the best. I'm currently using the Journeyman level, which is $3.99 I think per month. You can get a deal on that. There is 4 different levels above free. There's Journeyman, there's Professional, there's something else, and then there's Sage. Sage is quite a lot of money actually. But it's, the more you pay, obviously, the more stuff, more features you get. But having the Journeyman one is good enough for us right now. So that's what I'm on. I'll talk about it I'll probably do a YouTube video of it in the next couple of weeks, and upload that and get I need to get the YouTube, the Yogi Dave's YouTube running a wee bit more. Obviously, I need to do the Legends of Hammer as well. I need to get it pushed a wee bit more than I have been, because I've been letting that slip, and that's not going to help. So I'm going to see. That's it for me for today. I'm going to say good day and happy hobby.